What's up everyone? So there has been some updates in the FTX fiasco which happened a couple of days back now, which completely shook the crypto world. Now this has maybe been the third big capitulation event that we've seen this year in crypto, where we've seen some of the biggest projects and exchanges being exposed and then completely collapsing overnight, and this time it was FTX's turn. So in this video we're going to be concentrating more on the most recent updates that have happened today, instead of explaining exactly what happened. So as always, make sure that you tune into the rest of the video to find out more. So on the day that Sam Bankman filed for bankruptcy, there was actually a time period where the FTX exchange actually went down and nobody could even get on there, nobody could deposit, nobody could withdraw. And then it seemed for a while that the exchange actually went back live again. People were able to make deposits and make withdrawals and even make trades on coins that obviously were significantly differentiated in value from their value on other exchanges. But as of today, the latest update is that withdrawals aren't going through again, so people that still had their funds in FTX could potentially never see those funds again now, especially when the news that has come out here, as you can see in this article, that the entire exchange now has been hacked. There has been at least 1 billion of clients' funds that have been withdrawn from the exchange today, and also there is news that the website and the mobile apps themselves are hacked and they've had malware installed on them. So it is recommended that anybody who uses the FTX exchange do not interact with it whatsoever. If you have the application on your phone, delete it. If you use it online, don't sign in, and make sure that you don't do any updates on the mobile versions, because apparently the hackers have made updated versions of the application, which I'm guessing has the malware on there. This gets even more serious now that you think that the hackers could potentially have information on all the clients that were using the FTX exchange. So maybe some of you guys used FTX to make deposits or withdrawals, and you may have had your bank details on there. So that could maybe now be compromised and have been taken by this malicious party, and we don't know what they're going to do with that information, whether they're going to keep it and try and do something with themselves, or they're going to leak it or something like that. But you know, there's always the potential for something like that to happen. So if you are somebody that did use FTX or FTX US to make any sort of withdrawals or deposits on their platform, then you want to make sure that you're extra careful in the near future, and you're checking that nobody's taking any loans out in your name or any of that kind of stuff. And even if you didn't use FTX to deposit or withdrawal, you have to take into consideration that the hackers could potentially still have your email addresses, your passwords, and maybe some other information about you as well, maybe some addresses or phone numbers and stuff like that. So it's important to make sure that you maybe change your passwords and maybe email addresses on different exchanges. And the number one advice would be always make sure that you have a two-factor authentication on all of your accounts. Now I recommend using the two-factor authenticate applications for this. It's much more safer than using your mobile phone or an email address, for example. You need to make sure that all your different crypto accounts across all the different exchanges have this two-factor enabled on there, just to make sure that if your account details have been leaked, then hackers can't get into your accounts on different platforms. Now, it's not just the FTX exchange that has been hit by the hackers. The wallets, the Alameda wallets, are seemingly being drained as well. There's been reports today that a bunch of different funds have been disappearing now from anybody with Alameda wallets. So I guess the most important thing that you can do right now is just make sure that you have all your funds in the safest places possible. Now that brings me on to the next subject that I wanted to talk about, and it's that all the exchanges now have decided that they need to show a proof of funds. And now the proof of funds is basically the exchanges showing that they actually have the funds that they claim to have, just to give some reassurance to the users of those exchanges. Now there has actually been a handful of exchanges that I've got back and showed their proof of funds, and they are Binance, OXK, Kucoin, Crypto.com, Bybit, and Deribit. So far are the only exchanges that I've got back and showed their proof of funds. I'm sure there'll be another bunch of exchanges soon that will soon respond to this. But if you are holding your funds on an exchange, especially if you're holding funds in an exchange that I haven't mentioned there, you need to make sure that you move it to a safer place. The best thing you can do, just spend $100, get yourself a ledger and hold your funds on a ledger that's always the safest place, even safer than Binance. And last of all, I think it's important to mention FTX and Alameda were investors in a bunch of different protocols. They have their own ecosystem of projects that they are currently invested in, or they have donated funds for in the future. So you have to take into consideration maybe a knock-on effect that those tokens may be getting dumped at a future date if those funds have been stolen or compromised. So as you can see now on the screen, this is the ecosystem of different projects and protocols that both FTX and Alameda has invested in. So if you do have funds in any of these projects, then you want to be very, very careful and thinking twice about holding on to those. I just wanted to quickly look at the charts. I'm sure most of you guys will have seen this, but you can just see how much of an effect it had. It's crazy to see Sol went all the way down to 7 as of the 10th of November, all the way from nearly 40. Bitcoin took a huge hit. We saw Bitcoin go from over 21k all the way down to the 15,000s. We've never seen that in a long time now. Obviously some coins were more affected than others, ones that had closer ties to FTX for an example. Now this whole situation has put the whole crypto market in a very vulnerable situation. We don't know how things are going to evolve and whether it's now going to be able to expose more weaknesses within different exchanges or projects. That we're going to have to wait and see. I guess on the plus side, we are now seeing some very cheap prices in some different cryptos. I mean, really some of the main cryptos that I was looking at didn't go quite down as far as I'd hoped for, because I would have really liked to get in at a lower price. But we saw ETH and BNB kind of hold themselves much better than the rest. ETH went down. You could have got ETH at 1,070 at the lowest, which I don't think is still too low considering that it almost went down to 700 earlier this year. BNB as well, the lowest we went down to was 260, considering it went way under 200 a while back. But we just don't know what's going to happen in the next coming weeks. So there's still plenty of chance that we could see those lower prices at some point soon. And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover today. So there's one thing you can take out of today's video is, at the moment, make sure you're keeping your funds in the safest place possible, and that place is a ledger. Get yourself a ledger and keep your funds on there. And also, if you do have any money invested in projects that were invested in by FTX, then you might want to think about getting rid of those too. So guys, that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for listening as always, and until next time, bye.